All right, get ready, because today we're diving into the tango.
Oh, yeah, the
And
tango.
let me tell you, getting to the bottom of this was quite a journey.
It really was.
It's way more than just those,
Definitely not.
romantic scenes we see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
You said to some incredible stuff.
Right.
Excerpts from Tango's Embrace, academic papers, historical accounts.
Mm.
We even had music and images to work with.
Yeah, it's amazing how much there is to unpack just to understand
It is.
where the tango came from.
It really is. It's like piecing together a historical puzzle. It's
Yeah.
really fascinating.
Yeah, and it starts right from the beginning. Like, we hear about these supposed European roots of the tango.
Okay.
And, like, even this really bold claim that I read
Okay.
was by Jean Richepin at the Académie Française.
Mm.
And he said that the tango could be traced all the way back to ancient Greece.
Wow, ancient Greece. That's a long way to go.
I know.
That seems like a stretch, man.
I know. And,
Yeah.
like, he even pointed to dances that were performed after, like, performances of Aeschylus's The Persians as proof.
Wow. I mean, were our sources able to dig up anything else?
Yeah.
Because that seems like, I don't know.
Well, so one critic pointed out that he was basing his theory on the word tango appearing in these really old Greek texts. But,
Right,
like,
yeah.
the word could have had a completely different meaning back then.
Right.
It's like saying that, the tango came from ancient Egypt because they had the word dance. It doesn't really work like that.
It's all about the context.
Exact.
Right. We have to look at the context. We can't just take things,
Right.
at face value,
It's misleading.
especially when we're talking about history.
Yeah.
So, okay, ancient Greece maybe isn't the birthplace of the tango.
Right.
Where do we even begin then with this? Where does it come from musically?
Well, that's where the story gets really interesting because it's less about one single origin and more about a bunch of influences coming together.
Okay.
It's like a melting pot of music and rhythm, kind of.
Okay.
And one key ingredient in this mix is the habanera.
Habanera.
Yes.
Heard that before.
Yeah.
Doesn't that have a very distinct rhythm to it?
It does. You've got it.
Okay.
That distinct rhythm and the structure of it are found in early tango forms.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting because even musicologists have a hard time
Really?
drawing a hard line between what's habanera and what's tango,
Wow.
especially in like the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
So they were kind of intermingling
Yeah, they really were.
in those early days.
Yeah, and it really highlights how interconnected musical styles can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did this new music, how did tango actually spread? Because, there was no Spotify back then.
No, there was no Spotify.
So, how are we hearing this?
It was all about sheet music.
Oh.
Especially in the days before recordings were common, it was how a tune traveled from musician to musician, city to city,
Interesting.
continent to continent.
So just imagine someone gets off a boat, right?
Right.
In Buenos Aires.
Yeah, I know.
Sheet music in hand.
Yeah.
And that's how the tango spread.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Wow.
Pretty wild to think about, with how much we can share so easily now.
Exactly, with technology and everything.
It's amazing.
It really is.
And it wasn't just the habanera that was making its way around.
Right.
Our sources talk about other dances like the milonga
Right.
and chamamé, and they also have those rhythmic similarities to the tango.
Interesting, okay.
It shows this really cool exchange happening between Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay.
Speaking of cultural exchange, there's this striking image that I read about in the research
Okay.
about the Lubelos in Uruguay.
Oh, right, yeah.
These were white performers who would paint themselves black to perform Afro-Uruguayan dances.
It's a powerful image, yeah.
It is. What does that tell us about this time when tango was developing?
It really speaks to how complex cultural influences can be. You've got all these different people, different traditions, finding ways to express themselves through music and dance.
It kind of makes you realize that, even from the beginning, tango wasn't just about the steps.
Right.
It was intertwined with all these different facets of society.
It really was.
Class, race, social norms.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a reflection of society itself, really.
Yeah, it is. And as we go on, we see even more clearly how the tango is a part of the social fabric of Buenos Aires.
I'm excited to find out more.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So we've got this dance, this tango, emerging from this incredible mix of cultures and influences. And it's becoming, like you said, a part of the social fabric of Buenos Aires. So where do we actually see that happening? Where's it all going down?
Well, a lot of it was happening in these places called academias.
Academias,
Yeah,
okay.
they were like these hubs, these places where tango was really evolving. And you know what's interesting? Black and mixed race communities, they played a huge role in shaping the tango in these academias.
So the academias were like kind of like the underground clubs of their time.
Yeah, you could say that.
It's funny how the real heart and soul of something so often comes from those
Yeah.
places that are kind of like under the surface, you know?
It's true. And speaking of being under the surface,
Yeah.
tango was actually banned in a lot of ballrooms back then.
What? Banned?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine tango being considered anything other than like
I know.
elegant or whatever. Why would it be banned?
It was seen as too scandalous, too provocative. It's, remember its roots in those working class neighborhoods?
Right.
It was seen as almost like dangerous.
Really? So tango was like the forbidden dance.
It was pushed to the fringes, yeah.
Yeah.
Forced to thrive in, brothels and other places that weren't considered quite as respectable.
Wow. That's why. That actually kind of reminds me of the story of jazz music in a way.
Oh, yeah. How so?
It also came from like marginalized communities, right?
Yeah.
And it had to find its voice in these kind of like, I don't know, unconventional spaces before it finally,
Before it was accepted.
got accepted, yeah,
I know.
by the mainstream.
It's interesting how those kind of stories repeat. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's like this pattern throughout history where art forms kind of challenge those social norms and they
Yeah.
have to kind of like fight for their place.
Yeah, they have to earn it.
Yeah.
So tango is in these brothels. It's in these, underground places.
Right.
It's evolving, though.
It is. It's finding its footing, and eventually it makes a comeback. It moves from those outskirts back into the heart of Buenos Aires.
Okay, so how does that happen? How does it go from, like, band in ballrooms to
Well, the cabaret played a big role in that.
cabaret? Okay.
Yeah, think of it like this kind of in-between space. It wasn't quite a ballroom,
Right.
but it was definitely more upscale,
Right.
more like, a little bit more legitimacy, I guess.
Right, a little fancier, a little more sophisticated, let's say.
Okay.
And it gave tango a stage.
So cabaret was like the tango stepping stone
In a way, yeah.
into like, being an accepted dance.
Right, exactly.
Interesting. I wonder if that like changed tango at all, though.
It definitely played a role in its direction.
Okay.
You start to see people like Vicente Madero and Osvaldo Fresedo. They were really big in refining the tango style
Right.
and making it, I guess, a little more, palatable for those upper class audiences who were coming to the cabaret.
Right, right. So they're kind of like cleaning it up a little bit, making it
In a sense, yeah, they were definitely refining it.
right. So it's not quite as scandalous, maybe.
Yeah, you could say that.
Do you think that tango lost any of its like original spirit though with that kind of like
That's what's fascinating is that even as it became more refined, that emotional core
yeah.
remained. There's a quote from a musician from that time. He said, "The tango is not a dance of steps, but a conversation between two souls."
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
It really is.
That's really nice. So tango is finding its place in like the mainstream culture.
Mm-hmm.
Did it become a source of pride for Argentina, like nationally?
Absolutely. As it gained acceptance, it really did become this symbol of Argentine identity.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And tango orchestras started forming.
Okay.
And there was even this debate that emerged about improvisation versus orchestration.
Oh, wow. So like, should we be sticking to tradition or should we?
Exactly. It was a real clash between tradition and innovation.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that resonated with a lot of art forms at the time, trying to figure out where they stood.
totally. Yeah. So tango is kind of navigating its identity at this point. It's like, how do we stay true to our roots and also, grow?
Right, exactly. How do you maintain that balance?
Yeah, it's a tough thing.
It is.
It's really cool though.
It is cool.
So speaking of tango's identity, we can't talk about tango without talking about the embrace.
Oh, absolutely not.
How did that develop over time? Because that seems like such a core part of tango.
That's where we start to see the tango really become more than just a dance. It becomes an art form, a way of communicating without even speaking.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It really is amazing how it all comes together.
So tango, it's finding its place in the world, becoming the symbol of Argentina, but it's that embrace, like you said, that seems like so important.
Oh, it really is.
And it's more than just, the physical closeness, right?
Right. It's like, when you read about it in Tanger's Embrace and these other sources, it's described as this whole world within the embrace.
Wow.
Like two people coming together to form almost like a single entity.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Yeah, moving as one.
So it's almost like a unspoken dialogue
Exactly.
between the two partners, this like energy flowing between them.
Yeah, and it's a place where, vulnerability meets strength. And you have this really cool interplay between passion and control.
That is interesting because, you think about tango, you think about those things, but they seem like opposites, right?
Right.
Like to have both of those things at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, I think, what makes it so captivating.
Yeah.
Because it's fiery, but it's also elegant, it's spontaneous, but it's also structured.
Right. And that requires so much from the dancers, I imagine.
It does, yeah. It demands a real awareness of themselves.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, all of it.
It's not something you can just like phone in,
No, not at all. You really have to be present in the moment,
Yeah.
responding to your partner, the music, everything.
So it's a dance, but it's also like a
Right.
journey almost, right?
It is a journey, yeah, a journey of like self-discovery, not just as an individual, but as a couple.
Yeah.
Because you're learning to like really listen, respond, communicate without words.
And all of that is contained within the embrace.
Within that embrace, yeah.
So tango's like teaching you how to be in the world in a way.
In a way, yeah, it's like a different way of being, a different way of connecting.
Wow. And I imagine that extends beyond even just the two partners.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because tango has this amazing way of like building community,
Right.
Bringing people together from all walks of life.
Yeah, like a shared language.
Exactly. It transcends those cultural boundaries because it's something deeper than that.
Really cool. So we've talked about the embrace. We've talked about the feeling of tango, but there's also, of course, the technique of tango.
Right. There's the actual steps and movements, right.
So what can you tell us about that?
Well, a lot of our sources, especially the book Tango's Embrace, talk about the importance of what they call the 3 C's of tango: corte, cunita, and cadencia.
Okay, the 3 C's. What are those?
So think of them as like the fundamental building blocks of tango, like the essence of the dance
Okay.
that go beyond just specific steps.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So corte, it's that sudden, sharp movement, a pause that creates this sense of anticipation.
Oh, okay.
And then cunita, it's this really gentle rocking motion, kind of like a sway that connects the dancers to the music's rhythm.
Okay.
And then cadencia, it's the flow, that seamless transition between the movements.
Got it.
It's like the embodiment of the music itself.
So it's less about memorizing a routine and more about understanding these principles
Exact.
and then allowing them to, like, guide your improvisation.
You got it. That's exactly it.
Wow.
And there's actually a really great story in our research about a seasoned tango dancer
Okay.
who kind of like rediscovers the essence of tango through these fundamental elements. He
Oh.
talks about it as like finding the music's soul within the embrace.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. Wow, this has been such an incredible deep dive.
It has been fun, yeah.
We started with these mysterious origins, right?
Mm.
That we talked about its rise from these like underground dance floors to these elegant cabarets. Tango became this symbol of national identity.
It did.
We even talked about like the intimate language of the embrace.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's just amazing to me how much there is to tango. You know?
Yeah, you really could spend a lifetime exploring it.
You really could. So as we kind of wrap up here, what is like one key takeaway you would say that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that tango is so much more than just a dance.
Oh.
It's this reflection of history. It's a journey of self-discovery. It's a language that really gets to that like core of human connection.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it invites you to like embrace vulnerability, connect with someone else, and really experience that power of music and movement together.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's inspiring. And you know what? I think it's what we all need a little bit more of. So for those of you listening, as you continue your tango journey, remember it's a dance that unfolds with every step. The story keeps going. So get out there, get on the dance floor, allow yourselves to get lost in the embrace, feel the music, and discover the magic of tango.